In this lesson, we'll be discussing what the solar system is, what it means when we say planets are spinning on their axis or orbiting on their orbit. So let's get started. When we talk about solar system, we are referring to the sun and then the 8 planets. And that's basically where our Earth or our home is found. And then the planets that are found in our solar system are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So these are the 8 main planets found in our solar system. And the largest object found in the solar system is the sun. The sun is by far the largest object you can find in the solar system. But when it comes to the planets, the largest planet is Jupiter, and it's surprisingly made up of gas. So Jupiter is basically the largest planet in our solar system. And the planet with the most visible ring is Saturn. And the only planet on which you can find life, like we humans, animals, and plants, is the Earth. In this video, it is very clear to you that the planets are actually moving or spinning on their axis. And more visibly is the Jupiter and Earth. So you can see that they are actually spinning or moving on their axis. So what do we mean by axis? So basically, an axis of a planet is an imaginary line that passes through the planet. And when we say imaginary, it basically means it is not real. It's not something you can see and touch. It's something we imagine exists. So a planet like the Earth has its axis on which it spins. So how important is the spinning of a planet on its axis? We'll focus on the Earth. You see, from this video, you can see that the Earth is actually spinning on its axis. When the Earth spins, that is what causes day and then night. So anytime a planet like the Earth spins, there is a part that faces the sun and another part faces away from the sun. The part that faces the sun experiences daylight, and the part that faces away from the sun experiences night. So depending on the time you are watching this video, if you are actually watching this video in the day, that means we are at the part of the Earth that is facing the sun. But if you are watching this video in the night, that means currently you are at the part of the Earth facing away from the sun. So what does that mean? Simple. When a planet spins on its axis, that is what causes day and night. The part facing the sun experiences daylight, and the part facing away from the sun experiences darkness. As simple as that. But here's the interesting thing. Earth is not the only planet that spins on its axis. Other planets like Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, they all spin on their axis. But from this video, you can see that the speed at which Jupiter is moving or spinning on its axis is higher than the speed at which Earth is spinning on its axis. That means planets spin at different speeds. So on our next slide, I'll be showing you the time it takes for planets to complete one spin on their axis. And when planets complete one spin on their axis, that is what we refer to as a single day on that planet. So let's see how long it takes. And our point of reference will be the Earth. So let's focus on the Earth for now. A single day on the Earth lasts 24 hours. 24 hours equal 1 day on Earth. As simple as that. So if someone asks you, how long does it take for the Earth to complete one spin on its axis? That is 24 hours. Or you can just write 1 day. Now let's compare that to the other planets. We are actually going to consider the first 5 planets, from Mercury to Jupiter. Now take a very close look at the very first planet, that is Mercury. It takes 59 Earth days. What does that mean? Basically, it means a single day on Mercury is 59 days on Earth. 1 day on Mercury is 59 days on Earth, meaning Mercury actually spins slowly on its axis. It moves very slow on its axis. So if we were on Mercury, we will have to, as our day will be equal to 59 days on Earth. That's really, really long. Well, but compare that to Venus and see. A single day on Venus lasts how long? 243 Earth days. Meaning a single day on Venus, that is when the sun rises to the time it sets and rises again, that interval is 243 days on Earth. That is really, really long. Now look at Mars. The duration of 1 day on Mars is very close to that on Earth. On Mars, 1 day on Mars is just 24.5 Earth hours, meaning that is 24 hours and 30 minutes or so, 30 something minutes. So 24 and a half hours. That is how long it takes for 1 day on Mars. But here's the interesting thing. Look at how long a day on Jupiter lasts. Just 10 hours. Only 10 Earth hours. So that means a day on Jupiter, 1 day on Jupiter is only 10 hours on Earth. That is really, really short. Why is that the case? Because it is clear that Jupiter is spinning faster on its axis. That is what explains it. So let's take some few questions to see if we really understand what we've learned so far. Now, look at the diagram or this video and answer this question. Which planet has the longest day? Which planet has the longest day? It is obviously Venus. Venus has the longest day of 243 Earth days. I'm sure you got it right. Now, next question. If you lived on the planet with the longest day, that is Venus. If you live on Venus, that is the planet with the longest day, and then you slept for half the day, how long would you sleep for every day? So how long does a day last on Venus? That's the first question we have to ask ourselves. That is 243 Earth days. Now, out of these 243 Earth days, you sleep half of the day. That means you have to divide 243 by 2. So 243 divided by 2 gives us 121.5 Earth days. So if you live on the planet with the longest day and slept for half the day, how long will you sleep for every day? You sleep 121.5 Earth days. Now let's take our next question. Which planet has the shortest day? The shortest day, which planet? So out of these 5 planets, the planet with the shortest day is Jupiter. That's so interesting. It is the largest planet and at the same time the planet with the shortest day out of these first 5 actually considered. So the question is, how long does a day on Jupiter last? It lasts only 10 hours. Only 10 Earth hours. Now the last question on this part. If you lived on the planet with the shortest day, how many hours would you be at school every day if on Earth you spend about 6 hours at school every day? Well, before we answer this question, let's analyze the duration or the length of a single day on Earth, because there's a reference made to Earth. You see, on Earth we have 24 hours. That makes 1 day, meaning we have 12 hours of sunlight. Ideally, everything being equal, we should have 12 hours of sunlight and then 12 hours of darkness. Combined, that gives us 1 day. 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of darkness. Now, for the 12 hours of sunlight, half of it, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So we spend 6 hours at school according to the question. So that means half of 24 is 12 and half of 12 is 6. So we use that same strategy to answer the question. So if you lived on the planet with the shortest day, and which planet has the shortest day? That is Jupiter. How many hours would you be at school if you need to spend about 6 hours at school every day? So on Jupiter, we have 10 Earth hours. So that means we have 5 Earth hours for sunlight and 5 Earth hours for darkness. And for the 5 Earth hours for sunlight, we will use half of it in school. So that will be 5 divided by 2, and that will give us 2.5 Earth hours. So that's quite interesting. So if so far you've learned something so interesting at this point, you can give the video a thumbs up and like the video. Interestingly, we already said that planets actually spin on their axis. And when planets spin on their axis, that is what causes day and night. But here is the interesting part. Planets do not only spin on their axis. As they are spinning on their axis, they are also moving while spinning. So if you look at Earth, you can see that it is spinning and at the same time moving on that imaginary line that appears in the video. That imaginary line is referred to as the orbit of the planets. So the Earth that we see over there, that is the third planet, has its own orbit. This doesn't mean that if you go to space, there are actual lines in space. No, it's just the path the planets take. So the path the planets take, we've said earlier that it is the orbit of the planet. When planets move on their orbit, that is what causes a year. Well, let's have a look at the next video and see. So this is another representation for our solar system from another angle of view. So look at this. What we've actually circled is the Earth. So where you and I live, that is the Earth. Now pay a very close look at this. We have made a round circle around it. Now we'll play this video to cause the Earth to actually move. Now pay attention to what happens. So the Earth is moving. It started from the red circle. Then it gets back to the red circle. So when a planet moves from a starting point and moves all around the sun, that is what on Earth referred to as 1 year. So now, here's one interesting fact. Planets actually orbit the sun at different speeds. The time it takes for planet A to orbit the sun is not the same as planet B. So in this scenario, we are going to consider our Earth and Venus. So the Earth is circled in red and the Venus is circled in blue. So we assume they are all on the same line. They are all having the same starting point. So let's start the video and see which one will finish moving around the sun before the other. So what are you observing? You can see that the Venus is moving faster than the Earth. So basically that means that it takes a shorter time for Venus to move around the sun compared to that of Earth. Now let's answer this question. Now look at this. Our first question is this. How long does it take the Earth to orbit around the sun? And a little background information. When we say orbit around the sun, it means to move around the sun. So how long does it take? You remember we said it takes 1 year for the Earth to orbit around the sun. And 1 year is equivalent to 365.24 days. That is basically 365 and quarter days. So if you meet such a question, you could say 1 year or 365 and quarter days. The next question is, does Venus take a longer or shorter time than the Earth to make one orbit around the sun? Explain. Now pay a very close look at the movement. Venus is actually the second planet in the solar system and Earth is the third. And from our previous slide, which one moves faster? It's obvious that the it's obvious that Venus takes a shorter time than the Earth to make one orbit around the Sun. But why is that the case? It's simple. Venus is closer to the Sun. So Venus is closer to the Sun than the Earth is to it. Now for our next question, which planet takes the longest time to orbit the Sun? What do you think? Which planet takes the longest time? Now pay a very close look at this solar system. Look at the planet, the last planet here. That is what? Neptune. Is moving really, really slow. And why is Neptune the planet that takes the longest time to orbit the Sun? Because it is the planet that is farthest from the Sun. It is very far from the Sun, so it will take a very long time to move around the Sun. So these are some few questions that you could meet about the solar system. But that's not all. There's something interesting I'd like to show you. Pay a very close look at this diagram. In this diagram, this is a model of also the solar system, but taking away the other 7 planets and focusing on the Earth. So we first have our Sun, and then we have the Earth, and then the Moon. But the question is, what do we know about our Sun? Keep this in mind. The Sun is actually a star. So when we are talking about the star found in our solar system, we are referring to the Sun. The Sun is a star, and then it gives off light. The Sun actually gives off light. It is the source of light that we have in our solar system. And what do we know about the Moon? The Moon is actually a natural satellite. So you keep that in mind. Maybe you are asked, an example of a natural satellite is the Moon. So the Moon is actually a natural satellite, and then it only reflects light. What does that mean? It means the Moon does not generate its own light. It can't produce light. It only reflects the light that shines on it. So that is one important thing you have to keep in mind about the Moon. What about the Earth? What do we know about the Earth? The Earth is a planet, and it is the only planet on which life can be found. Now, in this diagram, you can see some lines around the Earth and then the Sun. The one that you see around the Earth is the orbit of the Moon around the Earth. So the Moon has its own orbit around the Earth. And then we have the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. So basically, that is how things work around here. So let's watch this video to see exactly what happens. So you see, the Earth is moving around the Sun, and then the Moon is moving around the Earth. So as the Earth is moving, you can see that it is also spinning at the same time. So at every moment in time, the Earth is spinning and then at the same time orbiting the Sun. So as it spins, that's what causes day and night. And as it orbits the Sun, that is what causes a year, as we refer to. So that is so interesting, and I'm sure you actually benefited from it. So this brings us to the end of the discussion on solar system. Stay tuned and be ready for our next lesson.